Schefter. Here's what Schefter said on NFL Live, or maybe Get Up. After they couldn't get a trade done for Stafford and couldn't get Fields re-signed, they pivoted to Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers right now was their third choice. Okay. Your reaction?
Listen, I mean, Schefter is in the information business. Now, by the way, all the people in the information business, none of us knew Amon-Ra St. Brown got that knee surgery. So, I don't even know what the information business is these days. But he is certainly not in the wrong information business. Right. And so what I think made everybody's eyes perk up there, or ears perk up, is, wait, they would have preferred Fields? And also did they lowball Fields, or did they offer Fields the same thing the Jets did? And Fields is like, no, I'd rather go to the Jets. Like, that is news. And
has that come out?
No, that's what I'm saying. But that's news, and that's odd news to me, right? It is not at all surprising they would have rather had Matt Stafford.
Right.
And I think that if they had gotten Matt Stafford, then I think you look at them as a real contender-ish team. I would. Now, I probably hold Matt Stafford in a higher regard than most.
But people would look at him.
But so I do think that whether he was their second or third option, now that he is there, and we don't have to look at it as a hypothetical anymore, if you really do, and I'll maybe do this later because I'll let you respond to this piece of it. If you just go team for team in the AFC and say, hey, rank the quarterback situations, the Steelers didn't come up much higher. Like, they're not going to end up much higher in that hierarchy this year than they were last year with Russ and Justin Fields there. Like, as far as what quarterback situation would you rather have?
Right.
You did it differently.
I did opponents.
Yeah, you did it as far as who they're playing. I saw that, but it's a similar thing. But it's not just, I guess what I'm saying.
Where do you have them? Did you do it?
Yeah, I mean, so I think there are only two teams in the AFC and maybe only 3 or 4 in the whole league that definitively have a worse quarterback situation than the Steelers. In the AFC, the only 2 teams that I think clearly are in a worse spot than the Steelers are Cleveland and the Colts. And then the one that to me is a close call is the Jets. But if this report is true, the Steelers are saying the Jets are in a better situation because that's the guy we wanted. And
okay. Oh, my God. Okay. Guys, first off, I hate reporting like this because of the way it's often construed and framed. And I think it's absurd. Listen, I don't mind reporting like this because it gives us data and gives us information, but it's the way how it's reported, right? Obviously, if you're the Steelers, if there was rumors that the Rams wanted to move on from Stafford and all this, and that Stafford was available and all of that, it makes sense because the Steelers they got to take a big swing. They got some pieces that they want to see if they can win. And Stafford right now in 2025 is obviously a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. He's healthier, he's younger, etc., etc. That makes sense. And if you can get him for a competitive deal, that's a home run. Justin Fields, yeah, you're going to look to potentially re-sign him, have some continuity. He is still a young asset that you potentially are trying to explore and figure out, and you have the continuity with the coaching staff and all that. That makes sense. They obviously are not trying to offer him like a $45 a year, $1 million contract and whatnot. And now the next option is Aaron Rodgers. But this is framed in a way of let's dunk on Aaron Rodgers, especially with Adam Schefter. We know that they hate each other and all of this, and we know Nick doesn't like Aaron Rodgers and all of that. And that's what always kind of drives me crazy when we kind of have this this personal beef with an Aaron Rodgers. And it's so fascinating to see because unless something is truly controversial, and I believe that some of these people fundamentally have done awful things, I'm not even going to say them out loud, but we know some of the examples of players who have done things that, they're literally facing real charges here. And I understand why you're going to get some biased reporting about those players. And I still try my best to try to like cut it through and be like, this is how I think this will work and this is how I can feel about the person, right? It's kind of separating the art from the artist or whatever. But with Aaron Rodgers, we just fundamentally do not get that with him. And it's like, it's for reasons that are quite dumb to me. Just straight up, I'll just say it's just dumb to me. And I care so little about any of the other stuff because it does not matter to me. Some of the other more important stuff, like I just kind of alluded to, that I'm just, again, not going to say, that makes sense because that's like real. That's like real stuff, like real harm is being done. It's not the case with someone like an Aaron Rodgers. So it's just like this type of reporting just gets blown up and exaggerated in a way where it's just like, well, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is older. He was injured. His personality is definitely like kind of like, not something that people are crazy about, even just from a coaching, standpoint. So yeah, if you're a team, you're exploring other options. Aaron Rodgers is not going to be your number one option here. That makes sense to me. You're going to explore and flirt with other options. But that's not this big like indictment on someone like an Aaron Rodgers. You're just not, because you're also not thinking that you have Aaron Rodgers for the next 3 years. So like all of this stuff logically makes sense. And sometimes when something logically makes sense, but then we want to emphasize it in a way of it being almost like controversial or like a dunk, then I'm just kind of like, breaking Pittsburgh Steelers wanted a younger, better quarterback. Like, oh, okay. And I get the Justin Fields is like, we can act like that's like such a shocking thing, but it's like, one, we don't even have all the information about like what they actually wanted out of Justin Fields. Two, if you can get Justin Fields for cheap, right? Like, because again, you weren't even sure of where Aaron Rodgers was going to go. Was he maybe going to stay with New York? Was he going to go to Minnesota? Like, you don't really 100% have that answer. The Steelers were able to win games with Justin Fields, but they obviously did bench him ultimately. So it's just like, again, like all of this stuff logically makes sense to me. It's one thing if it was like breaking Pittsburgh Steelers wanted trying to think of like a completely Joe Flacco or something, like then I could understand. But even then, it's kind of the same boat, Flacco and Aaron, and you would say, well, Flacco's probably got a better personality here, so we'll take Flacco over Aaron or something. But I mean, sorry, I don't know if this was before Aaron went to New York, I would see that this maybe being a bigger deal. But considering everything that happened, it makes sense. And to now this whole thing of like, Aaron Rodgers is just he's just like the worst quarterback of every single team they're going to face, and this, that, and the third. I'm not going to do it because I did it last weekend or whenever the heck I posted the video where I showed you Aaron's numbers. And again, I always poke holes in just, cold stats with no context. But the reality is like, we're just taking this too far where we're acting like Aaron Rodgers was just like a bum and awful when like his touchdowns, his interceptions, his passing yards, his completion percentage, all that type of stuff was completely within range of some of these other great quarterbacks, whether Patrick Mahomes, Stafford, whoever, Josh Allen, like depending on what metric we're looking at. And Aaron Rodgers had inferior coaching and inferior roster, and yet he was still able to produce at a pretty competent level. And I don't think that those stats were misleading because those numbers weren't produced in ways where you're like, yeah, but they were down by 30 going into the second half. Of course he passed for a few hundred yards in the second half because it didn't matter. Like, it wasn't that extreme of a situation. Where it was more so of that, when I referenced this before, Caleb Williams, where like the vast majority of his touchdowns came from when they were already down by 2 scores. Which was like, he has like 15 touchdowns, I think it was, when they were already down by 2 scores. So it was like kind of like, yeah, that's a pretty specific situation here. That's where, a perfect example of how stats can be a little bit misleading. That's not what happened with Aaron Rodgers necessarily. So, I don't know. It's frustrating that we can't get like real honest conversations around Aaron. I just made a video literally an hour before this one with the Herd, with Matt Hasselbeck, which I think he did a pretty good job, and I kind of unpacked why I thought that it could be a positive connection between the two of them. And then I was going to skip this, but it's just because of the framing of it with Rodgers being the third option and the whole kind of like the people trying to get like some sort of satisfaction out of that. It just kind of irks me, honestly. And it's like such a weird thing that like Schefter has this beef with Aaron. Like, it's just like, it is crazy when you think about that. These are like grown men. Like, no one ever really grows up. That really is my conclusion at the end of the day. But if you ever interact with like older people, 50s, 60s, 70s, and no matter how rich they are, no matter how famous, not to act like I'm interacting with all these rich and famous people, but like, it's just, you just see it. Nobody ever truly grows up, man. Everybody is still like 15 years old, 12 years old on the the schoolyard at recess, man. Like, it's all the same stuff. And that's the stuff that we still kind of continue to see with stuff like this. And it's just, I don't know. I'm not going to act like I'm like Mr. Mature and like I'm not still a kid at heart, but it's just like, I'm like, my mind just goes to just like, you know, that's why I say this a lot. Like, what are we talking about? It's just like, what are we doing here? But yeah, I don't know. It's so weird that so many people hate Aaron Rodgers and yet they can't stop talking about him. And when I see stories like this, I just think to myself, you know, can't we talk about Buffalo Bills? Like, can't we talk about what the Commanders need to do to take the next step? You know, what do the Broncos need to do to take the next step? Should have a real honest conversation? Should the Chiefs be concerned about the Broncos and the Chargers now? And not a bias, like, no, they win the division every year. Like, having like a real conversation about it. And a real honest, grounded conversation about it. I try my best to do those things. I do. But, you know, sometimes limited. But, yeah. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Aaron Rodgers being the Steelers' third quarterback option? Oh, my goodness. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here. I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're all on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.